2025 70.3 Ironman Victoria. This one's taking place on May 25th, 2025 in Canada. Oh, Canada, here we go. This is pretty much what you're going to get on race day. Hopefully the weather's nice for you. Hopefully it's just like this. This is exactly what it's going to be. I wish they had a couple more photos of the run, but this is what it is. Nice little gentle entry on the swim here, and let's kick off into some of our event schedules here for the week. The 23rd, Friday, we have a park and ride shuttle service available 11:30 to 6:30 p.m. That's from Beaver Beach to Elk Lane. This is the duration of that. This is where the parking lot is. Take a bus, shuttle over there, and take you right to the transition area over there. So that's what it is going to look like. Scrolling down, we have athlete check-in and timing check pickup, noon to 6, Hamsterley Beach. We also have optional bike check-in from noon to 6:30, same spot. Athlete briefings 1 to 1:30. We have an open water swim clinic here taking place from 1:30 to 2, athlete briefing 3 to 3:30, and then another open water swim clinic 3:30 to 4. Keep in mind that there is nothing listed before Friday, so that's when the main things kick off. Scrolling down to Saturday, May 24th, again, that shuttle service is available 8:30 to 4:30 p.m. Athlete and timing chip pickup happens 9 to 4, Hamsterley Beach. Mandatory bike check-in, same spot, 9 to 4:30. Athlete briefing 11 to 11:30. Open water swim clinics are 11:30 to 12, also 1:30 to 2, with 2 athlete briefings after that, 1 to 3:30, or 1 to 1:30, and then 3 to 3:30. Sunday, race day. That park and ride shuttle is going to be available from 4 to 5:45. Transition 4:30 to 6 a.m. There is no professionals here, so it's just that age groupers rolling start at 6 a.m. That's going to cause some chaos, which we will dive into in a moment. Information tent, all of the pretty much the good stuff here is pretty standard. The only thing that's slightly different is that awards ceremony going to take place about 30 minutes earlier than usual at 3:30 p.m. So this is our course page this year. This is our swim, which we will be talking about. But historical weather, they have kindly listed 22, 23, and 24's weather here. So air temperature, let's go all the way back to 22. The low was 49, high was 54. 23, 48 to 69. 24, it was 47 to 51. So you know you're going to have about a high 40s in the morning, and then it's going to scale up after that. How much it's going to scale up just depends on the year. It will depend. Water temperature, we had 61, 72, and then 60 again. So you're looking at pretty much 60s out here, wetsuit temperature normally. So this is our swim course this year. We do have a little bit of a difference between start and finish there. But what that is going to do for you, it's going to do a couple different things. It's going to allow you to get out of the transition area a little bit more on race day, kind of calm the nerves a little bit. I personally always like races where the swim starts a little bit away from the transition area, just personal preference, I guess. But back to you guys, the athletes. Since there is no pros over here, that's going to have the athletes that are on the tippity top of the spectrum. That's going to have everyone in a tizzy leading up to the race. So if you are vying for one of those spots, expect a battle out here, even though we are going on a rolling start here. And it is a straight shot over there. What that means for you is it's going to be pretty busy for the initial kickoff over here. After you get out of this section, it will start to spread out and likely happen slightly sooner, and you're going to find your people. Find your people, hang out with them, and it is going to be kind of work together time over here before everyone starts to say, hey, wait a minute, why don't you do some work? After that point, during this corner over here, decide whether you want to shoot the gap and go to the next group or just go off on your own here. If there is a third little scenario here, if you are kind of off on your own and you're looking back and you're seeing a group of 5 or more, it might be beneficial for you to just hang back, let them catch up to you, and just ride on their coattails for a little bit after that. This right-hand turn, don't overthink it. You swim up here, you turn right, off you go onto the next turn. This area out on the race course is an area where a lot of athletes lose time. It's very Placid-esque over here. This area just again, don't overthink it. You turn right, you swim. I wouldn't do excessive sighting in this area, especially after you turn. Again, that's just kind of personal preference for me. Save some of that time. Same thing's going to happen right here. Athletes are going to turn right and say, what the heck is going on? It really is not a huge deal if you veer off a little bit over here or a little bit over there, just because of simple geometry and math like we learned in the ninth or 10th grade. After you get over here, very, very big pitfall for a lot of athletes is to really lay the hammer down. You can for sure increase the speed and the pace, and you probably should at this point, but know your limits. If this whole first section over here was way out of control and you were going way too fast, during this stretch of swim right here, don't overdo it. Just fall back into your pace. An area where a lot of athletes come kind of unglued and lose a lot of time is right before this arrow up to that second arrow over there. Their speeds, their pace really, really drop over here. They just get really slow and they say, wow, I need to just recover. And the main motto in their head is recovery. Swim your pace. The motto should be swim your pace and just keep that rhythm going. Keep the rhythm. Keep the rhythm going. Another huge problem during this race is excessive sighting, and that definitely happens during this section right here. Don't really good strategy for almost everyone is to not increase your sighting patterns as you get closer to the finish. If you do, again, you're just going to be sighting for the sake of sighting over and over and over and over and over again, and you don't want to sight every other stroke. You know, you definitely have swam before this, so just follow your own line and just get to that finish, and it will happen a lot faster. And that's the swim, believe it or not. Again, think back to our water temperatures here. If you're not used to swimming in these conditions, I would do your best to try and simulate that as best as possible that you can. Our bike, before we dive into it, this is the athlete guide from last year. This is our transition, pretty much the same course here. It is the same course. I don't know why I said pretty much, but it is the same course over here. When we get out of our swim, we're going to hang out over here. We take a left-hand turn. We're going to make a couple of loops, and keep in mind this is all kilometers. After you get to about 24-ish Ks into the bike, that's where your first aid station is typically going to be. This could change this year, so that's going to be something to keep an eye out for. Second aid station is going to happen right before the 45K mark. After we zig and we zag up here, our third and final aid station happening after that 70K mark right over here. Again, I always tell people this, but make sure when you do go to the race site, you check out where the penalty tent is. If it is not on the race course, it's going to be in the transition number 2, and you're going to have to serve that penalty if you do get one in the transition area. So make sure you look for where that penalty tent is when you do arrive on race day. They should have updated course maps and things like that when you get to the race venue here. But back to us. This is our bike. This is a simulated bike course over here. This athlete's got an FTP of about 240, 245. This is all just simulated, of course, but a couple of things that you can very easily see over here from our first little area over here. At the very beginning, we're going to have some very violent surges for this athlete. Again, violent in a relative term, they are going to go over their FTP of that 240 mark right there, but it's not going to be egregious. They're not going to go up to that 320 FTP up here. So again, know where you are, and that will definitely benefit you. The overall power is going to steadily increase as you get to miles. Sorry about the confusion over here. It's just what we're set as. And then once you get to that 15-mile marker, then things kind of settle down a little bit for you, and you can kind of fall into a much more of a rhythm. Hopefully you could see that this is broken down into a couple of different areas. Area number 1, area number 2, and area number 3. Over the course of all of these areas, it is a steady increase of power, and that is by no accident. Once you get past mile 25, 26 on the course, then things in elevation terms, they kick up back to the finish line. If we are talking about relative terms here, their course is listed as 3,000 feet of elevation gain. If we go over to this one over here, it's about 2,800. This is a little bit of an older one, created last year. So The reality is it's probably somewhere in between, splitting hairs, of course, here. Going back to our course over here that they list, you could see the exact same thing on this course as all the other ones. Once you get to this point on course, then things just steadily go up and up and up and up and up. So going back to our little modeled power over here, what that means for you is a couple of things. The first thing is during this first half, let's call it over here. During this first half, you should not be going super crazy over here. You definitely want your speed up, right? And it should be going steadily up over here, but you need to be doing that in a very controlled way, monitoring how many matches or where your matches are getting put out or used up over the course of these first couple of miles. If you're just going out of control and there's no real rhyme or reason why you're doing things, then you're going to run into a lot of issues. So be careful because this stretch is probably one of the most dangerous stretches on the race course. Not because it's most difficult, but just because this has the ability, you have the ability to just kind of maintain ish, right, with asterisk, of course. But this is the opportunity to maintain your powers out on course. With that, a lot of athletes just take this and they take their power and they just say, you know what? This is my time. I am having a great day. Let's go. And that's exactly what they do. They just go, 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 go here. And then once they get to this point on course, then the real work starts. This is section number 2 for real importance out here. So your race, it might not be a negative split out here, but in terms of power, you are largely going to have a higher power on the second half of this course. What the second half of this course does bring, though, is some complexity out here. Whereas the first part, you have some turns out here, and if I can get my mouse back, if you do, this first part of the course, you do have turns, of course, right? It's zigging, it's zagging, but once you get up here, right, then things really start to kind of change. You have a lot more wiggling in the road. There's a lot less lines of sight out there, and you're going back, you're forth. There's a lot more turns out here, a lot more things to navigate until you get on the western side. As you do that, the elevation is going to be another pattern, another thing that you're going to have to worry about out here. And then it just doesn't stop out here. Another interesting area out here is once you do climb up the main hill over here that everyone's going to be talking about. When you are coming back down, you do have to make a tight turn over here, and that's going to be a speed killer, and it goes immediately into another hill, of course, just for you. So that is something that you should be monitoring and also be. This is a course that I would definitely go over in the days before the race if you do have the ability to get up there a day or two ahead of time and you do have the time. I would definitely go ride this course, especially that area right there, just because of the difficulty and the speed decrease and increase right there. And that is our bike with overarching concepts and things like that. If we wanted to talk about weather, the wind direction over here typically goes from west to east or let's call it southwest to northeast. And again, of course, that could be different. It's not always going to be the case, but this is typically what you're going to find on race day. Wind speed, you're looking at about a 12, 13 mile an hour average out here. So wind is definitely going to be a factor, especially on the western side out here. With that, don't be surprised if you do experience gusts out there and it's pushing you around a little bit and you struggle on that western side because of that. That is totally normal and totally natural. You need to use your wind protocols out there. So time analysis, let's see what happens if we increase our power from 201 watts average to 203 watts average. You're going to save about 48 seconds. No surprise where you are going to be saving those seconds over here. So if we decreased our drag slightly over the course of this race, this athlete's going to save about 30 seconds. This 155-pound athlete dropping down 2 pounds, they're going to net 18 seconds on course. The reason that they are not going to save like 45 seconds or 2 minutes is because the downhills that come with this race. If we are going to drop down, let's say 5 pounds, then you're going to save, that's where the minutes come in and things like that. But this is for an athlete that's 155 pounds. If you are talking an athlete who's 200 pounds and they decide to drop 10 pounds or they're in the process of that, that's a totally different conversation here. Rolling resistance on this course, decreasing it by 1, you're actually going to lose a little bit of time because of some sections out on course. And again, That is, of course, assuming that everything's really, really fine-tuned already. If you do have a rolling or excuse me, if you do decrease it a little bit, that's a savings of 8 seconds. And again, it's all relative terms here. If you're already kind of maxed out in that area, you're kind of already maxed out in that area. Um, and the zones that you are typically going to find yourself in, if you're doing it right or about right on race day, you're going to have, and again, keep in mind we are 2 hours and 53-minute athlete here. This is about an hour and 22 minutes. In zone 3, zone 4 is 47, 48 minutes. In zone 2, we have about 40 minutes. In zone 1, they have listed 5 minutes here, but I would kind of decrease with that. You really want to get out of that zone 1 as best as possible, or as much as possible on race day. And that is the zones, and that's where we are at. Going back to last year's athlete guide, and we scroll back down to, these are the signs that you're going to have. Make sure you read the new athlete guide when it comes out, or when it does come out. This is our, let me zoom out just a little bit for you. This is our 2-loop run course over here. And the reason I bring this up for you guys is because of the aid station. So transition is right here. Our first aid station happens right off the bat. Great. Second aid station, third aid station, fourth aid station on the way out to experience the out and back and the turnaround here. And then the fifth aid station right there going back to transition areas. So you do have the potential to get upwards of 10 aid stations if you want them on race day. That's great. Love the support. It's usually awesome in Canada anyways. So just, a little kudos to you guys right there. Going to Ironman's Run little course here. This is exactly what you see. You have about 330 feet of elevation gain here. On this one, you got about 200 feet of elevation gain. I would actually side with theirs right here. You're probably going to have closer to that 330 feet of elevation gain over here. And if you wanted to go through this on your own personal time, you can go up and you can see some of the gradients that you are going to experience. There are going to be hills out here 100%. Some of them are going to be aggressive hills. Some of them are not going to last for very long, almost all of them. But what you are going to experience on this course is path running. You're going to be running around the lake. It's going to be nice. There are going to be times where if you are kind of in the middle of the pack and you're surrounded by a lot of athletes, there is going to be some times where it is a little difficult to pass out here. Don't be afraid to let people know that you're passing or need to pass or anything like that. What we find sometimes is athletes kind of run off the path and try to run around other athletes right next to that path, and then it kind of leads to a whole bunch of other stuff. So just, it's very similar to kind of trail running, even though it's not really trail running. That single track aspect, that single track mindset. Don't be afraid to kind of pick your battles and go around people, and you might find that you're surging a little bit. If that is the case, to surge around people or to get through to some cleaner paths so you can just run your race. Make sure you account for those surges. A lot of athletes surge to get around people, and they find themselves cramping later on. And it's not because the elements really get to them out here. You're running in shade for a large majority of this race. There is going to be times where you are open to the elements right on this side of the race course. But for the most part, you are going to be aided by trees, shade, that kind of stuff. So again, watch the surges. They definitely come into play a lot more than you think out here. If anyone's done Mont Tremblant, it's kind of like that. You're just kind of getting through in some areas. If you're at the front of the race, you're probably not going to experience this. The back of the race, maybe you're going to have a couple of places, but for the large majority, this happens for athletes in the middle of that range, just because a lot of people are in the mid-range of speed here. So it makes sense. Um, Yeah, watch out for other athletes. Watch your running form. It's very common for you to lose track of that out here when you are chasing a lot of other stuff, going around other people, hitting the aid stations, just taking everything in right, making sure you are not running into other people or no one's running into you. Form can get kind of lost in the back seat over here. This, because of the lack of variance, whatever you want to call it, on this course here, we do have a lot of wiggles in the road, a lot of twists in the road over here. So when you are running, be very, very mindful of what has happened on the bike. If you have taken the last half of the bike and you totally crushed it and you had way too much fun out there and you just totally dropped the hammer. Do not drop the hammer in the first 5 or 6 Ks on the run. Really evaluate what's happened. Are you able to keep going? What's your nutrition, hydration, all of that fun stuff, and kind of correct things if you do need correcting, because our bike, if we switch back over here, because our bike is going to be really, really dependent on what happens in this area, and also this one, but this one for sure. Um, Watch out, watch out, watch out on that run course. Just be very, very careful. Very common for athletes to just explode out here. So good luck to everyone racing this 2025 race. If you want any individual race breakdowns for you yourself, please feel free to reach out. I'll be happy to do an individual breakdown for you. And yeah, everyone, good luck on this 2025 edition of 70.3 Victoria up in Canada.